I'm wondering if you could do a calorie count for me. 3/4 of a cup of dry steel-cut oats, 4 cups of organic silk soy milk, 4 scoops of whey protein powder, 5 medjool dates, 1 giant pink lady apple or a Honeycrisp apple, 2 medium-sized bananas or large, whatever I had, 4 tablespoons of peanut butter, maple syrup, a 1/2 cup of walnuts. Roughly how many calories is that? It was close to 5,000 calories. I was eating that every day. So this is what breakfast looked like for me every morning during a stretch of my life. Here's a normal size bowl, just a comparison. Normal size bowl, here was my bowl. This king size bowl didn't hold just oatmeal, held a whole bunch of other things. I loaded this thing up with a full cup of steel-cut oats and medjool dates and a handfuls of walnuts and a few scoops of peanut butter and whey protein powder, 4 cups of soy milk and a giant apple and a few bananas inside that as well. Was that really feeding my hunger? I don't think it was. I went to that table like a man possessed. I was really checking out. And it's funny, I just thought I would add a little bit more and add a little bit more with each and every breakfast that went by. The funny thing is that I never really felt full. I was typically hungry about an hour after that. So I want to get to the bottom of this. Like, what was it that was really driving me to eat that much food? Because it really wasn't hunger. There's a funny statistic out there that says that 80% of all eating are for reasons other than hunger. So what were those reasons? And how the hell could I eat 5,000 calories worth of oatmeal every morning? So here was the posture. Like this, spoon in hand, and it was just this automatic thing. Over and over, just scoop after scoop, and I was just living inside of my mouth. I wasn't paying attention to anything else, completely cut off from my body. Everything was from the neck up. Just getting the mouth feel, that's all I was doing, and I wasn't taking any breaths. And what I really wasn't realizing that I was just building up this pressure, and the only time that I ever came up for air, maybe in between bites. That was really about it. It was just all about the accessibility. The pot was just close to my mouth, and it was about the speed. It was about the speed of getting it in there, and the reason why it got so big is because I never wanted it to end. I wanted to stay in that feeling for as long as possible, but I had to chew it fast. So it had to be something this big. I really didn't notice, I didn't really care because I ate all by myself. I ensured that. But it was my moment to really, for myself, it was a moment for myself, like this is my time, I've earned this time, and I want to stay in this time for as long as possible. Sometimes I would watch and I would just scroll on my phone and just dig in. And I would be in the phone or in the content I was watching and then just paying attention to what was going on in my mouth, but not paying attention to anything else. Not even really enjoying it. Weird, right? But the oatmeal never really was about being hungry, I don't think. It was just about being overwhelmed. And the speed just let me outrun the uncomfortable feelings that I was feeling, the stress, the overall pressure that I was dealing with at that time of my life. I was completely shut off from my body because it was giving me messages I didn't want to hear. It was like, yum, 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 yum. So it was all about speed and volume, like I'm training for an eating competition, like man versus food style. That's not what I wanted, though. I think I just wanted relief. Relief from what? Pressure.
Think back to the time when you were young. It was a lot of fun, right? What made it so much fun? You had time to play, you had time to go hang out with your friends, and maybe watch ninja movies and all that kind of cool stuff. But what was all that? What did all that mean? It means that you had time, which also means that you had space. Time and space. So when you're young, you have more time and space. Let me illustrate. Look at all this space. Hi. Woo. I could go over here. Oop, no, I don't want to go over there. How about over here? I could do something else over there. Oh, man. I don't need to do anything. Yeah, man, I mean, the point I'm trying to make here, with all of this space and all of this time, there's really no sense of urgency. Things just move slower. We can get complacent. And for a lot of years, I just drifted with no appreciation of what time and space really were, what they meant to me, and how that related with me trying to get my aim together. I just really wasn't even thinking about it. I really wasn't aware of what I needed to do, because there's any possibility available. Just feels like things move a lot slower here. And really they do. And they're pretty quiet. And it's easy to get bored. If you think that all the time, that becomes a behavior, like it became a behavior for me, and it just becomes a habit of not paying attention. But then there comes a point where you can't help but pay attention.
This is where you might find yourself. A little bit narrower position. Now these walls, it could be a lot of things. They can be your responsibilities more than anything. It could be your kids, it could be your job, growing need to prove yourself as a better person, whatever those things are. But more than anything, these walls, they represent the time you have left. And that's really, I feel, is the time that's creating this pressure. You no longer have as much room. Either you stay still and get crushed by it, or you find a way to continue moving. And there's only two directions. I can't go left or right anymore. It's either forward or back. When I was a kid, I was growing up on a ranch. My parents had some land, we had horses and some cows, and we had giant alfalfa fields that required sprinkler pipe. And long fields, I'm talking about 40 or 50 acres worth of sprinkler pipe, and I would have to change this each and every morning. And it was all gravity fed. That means all the water that came in didn't come from a well, it came from a ditch up above our property. Hi, I'll be doing some weird stuff every now and again, coming back and forth. And then it would start to funnel it into a series of smaller and smaller pipes coming down the property. It was coming down hills. And as the spaces contracted, the water then of course sped up. Now those openings just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until they came down the pipes and then up the stems where the sprinkler head was, and then all that water that was coming from the ditch was coming out of a hole like this big. Now this is a lot like what's happening to us. As everything begins to constrict, everything seems to speed up. At least that's what I'm feeling. The thing to do is to move forward with it, to keep flowing with it. So that's where the breath comes in, and there's no escaping it.
I was watching this old Steve Martin bit. It was a documentary that he was doing on himself. It's when he was first studying comedy and really trying to understand what it was that made an audience click, what made an audience laugh. And he remarked something to the effect of seeing like Bob Hope and maybe Don Rickles and maybe these few old school comedians, that maybe I'm not getting it completely right, but these old school comedians would get laughs on lines that really even weren't that funny. But what Steve did, it was he took a step back and took a look at the crowd and tried to understand what was happening there. And what he said was really interesting to me, is that he noticed inside of the crowd the tension inside, and that the laugh was more of a release. So what these old comedians did really well was they built a growing tension. Perhaps it was situations with relationships, or maybe it was kind of risque like sex or something, to where people had to be silent for a little while, and he felt this collective tension really build up inside of the audience. And then the little punchline, or the little bit of levity inside of that monologue, would allow that audience the space and the opportunity to release a laugh. So he noticed that it was this constant back and forth of building tension and then releasing tension, and laughter was a way to release that tension. The crowd was looking for it. even though they really don't think that it's the build attention and the release attention. They have to laugh a little bit if they feel uneasy, and of course laugh when something's hilarious too. But sometimes, you've probably been in a comedy show where it was kind of like a little bit cringe, and then if there is something funny, you're like, oh God, I can laugh out loud. So it's just this consistent buildup of tension and release. So you think about stuff in your life right now. It's difficult. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of responsibilities of you being that professional man, and you're providing for your family and the dad duties, and everything that you might be doing out there is building like all of this pressure. So where is your release, And for me, I was going through a renovation inside of a house. I was going through another relationship where it was really rocky. My girls, they were 17 years old, so that was a lot of fun. There was just a lot of pressure that I was dealing with at that time that I never knew how to deal with. And I didn't have a comedian laying around to tell me old crappy jokes. But what I did have every morning was a big pot of oatmeal. But that really wasn't release. That was more of escapism. Now, there's a difference between escape and release, at least in my view. Escape can be frantic. It's like the last hurrah. There's a lot of rush behind it. It's almost even semi-violent. Whereas release is more internally intentional. Is the letting go of something with intention, like how we release the breath inside of our body once we are intentional about it. When I was eating my oatmeal, and it wasn't just the oatmeal, it was anything else that I could snack on, there was this frantic energy around. I really wasn't comfortable with the pressure that I was feeling at the time. So to get my mind off of things, I could think about food and the thing I was going to eat, and ooh, this would be tasty. Ooh, what if I added dates? Ooh, what if I added peanut butter along with my whey protein? And then I just kept having these ideas of everything I can add to my oatmeal, thinking, ooh, that's going to taste good. And I would get lost inside of all of these thoughts. And then I would go, well, it's time to go make it. So in my thoughts of making all of this food, I would start to put everything together, just thinking about how everything is going to taste, not thinking of anything else, but just getting to that point to where I can start shoveling it into my mouth. That wasn't a release. This was a form of escapism. I wasn't dealing with the underlying stress inside of my body, inside of my life, inside of my relationships, or in my spirit, anything like that. I was just looking for any sort of outlet that I could. And food was that outlet. It allowed me to just go into another world. The thing is that escape really sealed the pressure still inside of me, to where I would get done eating, and if my kids did something to where it would bug me, or if something perturbed me, and then I could still easily blow up. I was still tight. I was still triggered. So using food as an escape really kept me locked in. However, if you can use food, and this is what I learned, is when I used food as a way to release, it required me to pause, and that made all the difference.
1 second. Yeah. This is the drying rack that we hang our laundry on. And I was in a hurry doing the laundry. Is the laundry fun? No, the laundry is not fun. The laundry is annoying. But the thing is that the laundry is never going to go away. But what I noticed when I was doing this laundry, I was in such a hurry to do it, and it was on these little baby socks.
Little sock with the little clip.
That I noticed how much I hate doing this, and that it was like doing reps on a bench press. You know why? Because I was holding my breath as I was doing it, and I found myself going, because, hanging these things, I'm holding my breath, like it's difficult. It's not difficult. In my mind, I was holding so much tension, I was holding so much stress because I was in a hurry, I was in a rush. I was trying to be done with it instead of like being in that moment. And so I just brought in the laundry story just to bring a point home that when the stress picks up, whatever it is that you're doing, this is something that stresses me out. I have to know that, okay, I'm going to be doing laundry. I have to be completely present in it. So that stress builds that tension builds that pressure. And from that, we either act out of that with anger or with fear or with hiding from any sort of truth or yelling at other people or overeating. So whatever the task is, make it manageable. And that your presence is going to release the pressure. Breathe. Comes down to that.
So the practices I decided to implement that ended up working. Number one, I noticed my posture. So instead of hunched over, I needed to sit upright, put my shoulders back behind me. So number one, the posture. When it came down to my eating, that was that, and setting down the utensil was helpful too because it allowed a little bit of time and space to digest. So taking a little bit of that time to focus in on the breathing, that helped as well. And then probably one of the hardest things was to chew anywhere from 40 to 50 times. Now, helpful with digestion, yes. There's a lot of spit you got to deal with in the meantime. But again, that allowed a little bit of time to kind of feel into the discomfort, to continually breathe, and to savor the moment, to stay in present moment. Now, this works beyond just the eating. So even in your stressful situation, noticing your posture. I slouch a lot, coming upright and tall. Noticing the speed or the hurriedness of the situation there too. So putting down your utensil might be setting down the pen to look at your son or your daughter to talk to them. Taking time in that moment. So those are the things that I did to help me get control of my food, which helped me get control of the situation a little bit better. And that's what it looked like for me when I decided to stop running from pressure and to be present with it and just decided to release it. I can tell you with some success that the pot is retired. No longer eating a ton of oatmeal out of it. I can hang socks with a little bit more calm now. So those are 2 wins. Those are wins for me. Thanks for watching.